This is a doozy, huh? This will be fun. Well, the first thing to note about this passage today is that it's often referred to as the Sermon on the Plain. Now, it's not nearly as popular as the version in Matthew, known as the Sermon on the Mount, which has the Beatitudes that Erica shared with us today as well. Also, thank you, Erica, for just preaching my sermon for me. That was great. After you were done, I was like, well, we can all just go home now. Beautifully done. The version in Matthew has all the blessings and the sunshine and rainbows, but this version in Luke has the yin-yang of the blessings and the woes. We love the blessing part. That's more like, yay, comfort. But the woe part, it's a little harder to digest, isn't it? But the fact that Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place is something to notice. He's on the same level as the people. I like to think of it as eye level, not looking down, not looking up, equal playing field, accessible to all of them, like he truly sees them, all of them. You might have heard the expression, I feel seen. That's when you feel like you really have someone's attention or you're being understood. Now, in pop culture, it also gets used in kind of a humorous, like tongue-in-cheek way. And if you don't know what I mean, I'll show you some examples afterwards. But regardless of how it gets used, I do hope that there are people in your life with whom you feel seen. And one question I have for you today is, have you ever felt seen by God? The second thing to note about this passage today is the audience. Who are the people that Jesus is on this same level with? Who are these people that Jesus is seeing? Well, all of them, kinda. A great crowd of disciples, a great multitude of people from all over. Geographically speaking, Judea, Jerusalem, the coasts. These are not people who are often found to be together. They are of different classes and different professions and even different levels of observant religiosity, which sets them apart from each other most of the time. And yet Jesus has brought them all together. Who doesn't want to follow this guy? I mean, really? He's healing them of their diseases. He's curing those with unclean spirits. They literally want a piece of him, like that Britney Spears song. We're told that power was coming out of him. It kind of makes me think of like, the Emperor in Star Wars, when like that power is zooming out of him like lightning. Except it's for good, because he's healing people. It is a good power. But have you ever been in an audience or in a crowd like this before? A diverse crowd brought together for a common purpose or desire or interest? Well, of course, my first thought goes to being in church, obviously, right? But my second thought goes to the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert. That's a gathered crowd. I also think that political rallies can have this feeling. My friends and I went to the rodeo yesterday. That was an interesting gathered crowd. People watching was top-notch. Ultimately, though, what the crowd was looking for so long ago was hope. They were looking for hope. And we can certainly relate to that. Have you ever been a part of a collective experience of hope? And now we come to the meat and potatoes of our passage for today. The blessings, the woes. Blessed are you who are poor, hungry, who are weeping, or when you are hated, excluded, reviled, defamed. Not just blessed, Jesus says, but rejoice. I mean, the audacity. One thing we can say about the crowd that was gathered around Jesus, this was not an existential exercise for them. They were Jews in the Roman Empire, a minority religion that was under the ruthless thumb of the empire. This was no cakewalk. Considering how many of them were looking for healing, we can easily assume the crowd was full of many ailments, physical and mental. Poverty, sickness, grief, desperation, hunger, and more. So as we consider this for today, I have to ask, have you ever been poor? Have you ever been hungry, like food insecure hungry? Have you ever fallen down weeping? Have you ever been hated or excluded or defamed? Have you ever lost hope? Have you ever been in need of healing? And Jesus doesn't stop there. He goes on. Woe to you who are rich, who are full now, who are laughing now, or if people are speaking well of you now. Now, can I just say in my defense on this last one, this is only my second Sunday, so y'all don't know me well enough to talk badly about me yet, but trust me, it's coming, I'm sure. At least not to my face, maybe behind my back. Maybe that's better. Have you ever been rich or financially secure? Have you ever been food secure with plenty to eat? Have you ever been light of heart, laughing without a care in the world? I will say that woe here, this word that we have in English, it kind of means like alas, or some exclamation of grief. In fact, in Greek, it is kind of translated like, whoa. It's pretty similar. I heard one commentator use yikes. I really like that. I think that's pretty solid. The point of all of this is not to say that it's good to be sick and bad to be healthy, or good to be hungry and bad to be full. The point of this is that the priorities of this world, they're not God's priorities. That the ways of this world are not God's ways. And in fact, Jesus came to turn the world upside down. If we put our trust in our bodies, well, we're bound to be disappointed, for our bodies are finite and mortal, no matter how much protein we consume or how many vitamins and supplements we take. It's like Rob Lowe's character in Parks and Rec, who thinks that his body is a machine and treats it like that, but then when he gets the flu, he's devastated and depressed and distraught. And it's funny, but it's also true. It's very relatable. In fact, you could say, when that happens, I feel seen. If we put our trust in our earthly possessions, we are bound to be disappointed, for our stuff gets worn out, our money gets spent, our stuff gets stolen or broken, or our kids don't want it, or it literally goes up in flames. If we put our trust in our political leaders or our government, well, do I really need to go into detail on that one? Probably not. If we put our trust in our reputation, we are bound to be disappointed, because we cannot be all things to all people. We are bound to disappoint somebody, and it is impossible to make everyone happy. I was listening to a podcast about the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And the reporter said that a part of celebrity culture is that we love to see our celebrities lifted up and then torn back down. It's a part of our bloodlust, our violent nature, our propensity to idolize and then despise. It's hard to stay on top unless you're Dolly Parton. Then you can stay on top. But if you're not Dolly Parton, you're not going to stay on top. But all of these things, our bodies, our earthly possessions, our money, our political leaders, these are all fleeting. Our reputations, they're all fleeting. And so this text today and these words from Jesus, they actually hearken back to Mary's Magnificat. This is earlier in the Gospel of Luke, after Mary finds out that she's going to have a baby, and she runs to her cousin Elizabeth, and she greets her with this proclamation: "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for the Lord has looked with favor on the lowly state of this servant. Surely from now on, all generations will call me blessed. For the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is God's name. The powerful have been brought down from their thrones, and the lowly lifted up. The hungry are filled with good things, and the rich sent away empty." So we've heard this before. And it sounds an awful lot like what Jesus says to this crowd that is gathered on this plain. "Blessed are you who are hungry, woe to you who are full." The world turned upside down. Blessed are you if things are not going your way, and yikes if they are. Yikes if you're putting your trust in that which is fleeting instead of the God who was above all and through all and in all. Of course, this is easier said than done. Sounds very nice, but we'd much rather stick to the status quo. It's easier, it's more mainstream, and it's even a part of our culture to say that we're blessed when good things happen to us, right? Have you ever heard someone say they're blessed when a bad thing happens? Have you ever felt blessed when a bad thing happened? Well, maybe. It's all about perspective, isn't it? Granted, there are some things too tragic to simplify, and yet when life is coming at us hard, are we inclined to see blessings? I think the big question is, when we are at our worst, do we still trust in the promises of God? Do we still hope that Jesus might be on to something here? Do we trust that God is with us, that we are never alone or abandoned or forgotten? Do we trust that Jesus' words of blessing are for us here and now, that our minds and our hearts are guarded and guided, even when the world around us seems to be crumbling to pieces? The day that the movers came to pack up my apartment in Los Angeles was also day 3 of those wildfires. And by that point, I knew that our church families were starting to learn that they had lost their homes in the blaze. We had also just learned that Pacific Palisades Presbyterian Church had burned down. I was aching as I watched all of my belongings being packed up, and it was strange to see it when others now had nothing. It really puts a solid perspective on, oh, be careful with that. Whatever. It's just stuff. It's fine. But I remember standing in my kitchen and thinking of this passage and thinking with a bit of attitude, I would say, I guess I'm blessed according to Jesus right now because I'm feeling pretty dismayed and it doesn't feel like it. It feels pretty crummy, actually. And in the moment, it's not always the greatest of comforts. It's just not. I was mad and sad and distraught. And in the midst of my sadness, I received this text from one of the young adults at my church. Hi, Laura. The timing of your departure is wild considering what just happened. I'm sure you feel like it's a really bad time to be leaving right now. But just know that you made a big difference in the Brentwood community. You have to do this for you. We love you. I read that, and this young man was pastoring me. It was like a wave of comfort washed over me. Such simple words, so sweetly and genuinely sent, and yet it was exactly what I needed to hear. The God who sees us, gathers all of us together, loves us through when life is coming at us relentlessly, reminds us to put our trust in the one who heals and sustains and blesses and brings hope even when the world feels upside down. Have you ever felt blessed in the midst of sorrow? Have you ever felt that peace that surpasses all understanding even when it doesn't make sense? Have you ever trusted that Jesus might, just might, be on to something here? Amen.